Welcome to the 23rd Annual Latin Alternative Music Conference. Once again, coming to you virtually, but we have some news about that I'm going to share at the end of this interview. And what an interview subject we have. I'm honored to be talking to one of Latin America's most well-known and respected musicians, vocalist and composer, Jorge Drexler. Maestro, bienvenidos. It's good to see you again, bro.
Thank you. Gracias, Felix. It's great to see you again. I have this, I remember this beautiful times in Washington when we met before the world went crazy.
Yeah.
And I think it was, I have such great memories about that Tiny Desk concert. I'm so happy every time I see it again. So it's really good to see you again.
Thank you, man. Thank you. That was a wonderful performance. You guys killed it that day, man. If you haven't seen it, people, take a look at the Tiny Desk concert. It's amazing. Yeah. You know, there's always a lot to talk with you about. You know, there's always a lot of things going on. But this time we're talking specifically about your new record that's coming out on April 22nd. It's called Tinta y Tiempo. And it almost didn't come out because of the pandemic, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
It didn't come out because the pandemic affected all of us in very different ways, but with a common feeling of that I heard in English called languishing. I mean, we were not completely depressed unless you lost somebody close to you, which happened to lots of us. But the standard feeling along the pandemic was that languishing feeling, you know, where I learned a lot. The first thing I learned is that I thought that my work had two parts. One part introspective and personal, and the other one like social and more open. The first one being writing songs and the second one playing them alive. But it turned out that also for writing, you need the human connection. I mean, you write alone, but I finish the songs when I hear them in the ears of another listener. I couldn't complete the composition process alone. I realized I wrote a lot of songs, but all of them were at their 80% of their potential. I couldn't finish them. And I didn't know why that happened. I was alone at my house and alone at my studio until I realized that I used to play the songs I was working on every Sunday when we got together with friends, you know, after lunch, and every sound check that I would go to a show, or maybe in the airport where we were waiting for the plane, or in the car where we were heading to another city to play. There was always moments where you would share your music, your unfinished music with relatives, friends, and people nearby, and that didn't happen. And so I couldn't get to the end of the process. I needed the other person to finish that process, and that was a revelation for me, because we usually think that composition is a very lonely process. And although for me, it needs like a social hook, like somebody else pulling the last part of the string.
Cuando hablas de, I'm going to go back and forth entre inglés y español. Cuando hablas de aprender algo de su mismo o del proceso. Yo recuerdo al principio del pandémico, escuché una entrevista con el saxofonista Wayne Shorter, y el saxofonista de jazz, Wayne Shorter, y alguien lo preguntó, like, what what do you think about the virus, Mr. Shorter? Y él dijo una cosa, nomás dijo, the virus is a teacher.
Okay.
So, en este momento era como abril o mayo, en los días principios del pandémico, ¿no? En 2027, 20, perdón, 2020. Y lo que aprendí es que cambié mi manera de pensar en lo que estábamos viviendo, ¿me entiendes? Like, what can I learn from this? And at the same time, I thought, well, I wondered how songwriters like yourself, like people who are very intuitive, would have poetry, they can see the poetry of the moment in your music, right? How you're going to how this was going to manifest a year or two after. And that seems to be, se parece que es que tenemos en su disco, Tinta de Tiempo. It's like, it's the reflection of, una reflexión de todas sus experiencias en este momento, ¿no? Would you say that that's accurate from the record?
Would you like me to answer in Spanish or in
Español.
En español.
Sí.
Definitivamente estoy de acuerdo con el maestro Wayne Shorter. El virus la pandemia ha sido una maestra en muchas cosas. Eso no quita el componente de dolor, repito, porque estamos hablando siempre, hay gente que ha perdido seres queridos, entonces hay que tener ese respeto por ese dolor. Pero definitivamente yo al menos aprendí muchísimas cosas. Aprendí a través del miedo, aprendí a través del dolor, aprendí a través de la enfermedad. Yo pasé 2 veces el virus. Aprendí a través de la soledad. Pero definitivamente me enseñó varias cosas el virus. Me enseñó lo que te decía en la primera respuesta, que no se escribe las canciones en soledad, sino que para escribir también necesitamos la escucha del otro, la presencia del otro, para terminar que la escritura es un proceso de comunicación, no solo de volcado de información. Tú no solo das información, que no, emites información y recibes la respuesta del otro y ahí terminas la canción también, ¿no? Eso fue lo primero que aprendí. Y lo segundo que uno aprende claramente es que es el valor de la vida, el valor de la proximidad con el otro, el valor del contacto de la piel con la otra persona, el valor de compartir en espacios cerrados un mismo aire con otras personas, ¿no? Yo, todo el material que está en el disco, creo, prácticamente todo el material que está en el disco fue escrito durante la pandemia. Pero yo escribí muchas otras canciones previas a estas del disco que hablaban de la pandemia, específicamente canciones hechas con miedo, con desconcierto, con frustración, con incertidumbre, hablando de la distancia de las pantallas, del virus, del miedo al otro que uno desarrollaba porque otra persona podía contagiarte. Todo eso lo conté en canciones que cuando llegó el momento de sacar el disco ya no tenía más ganas de cantarlas. Yo preferí del aprendizaje del virus tomar la importancia de celebrar la vida y la importancia de celebrar la fuerza creativa de la vida y la fuerza creativa del amor. Por eso la canción empieza con la historia del amor, con la invención del amor en la era mesoproterozoica, cuando por primera vez 2 células se juntan para 2 individuos diferentes formar, a través de la unión de 2 individuos diferentes, formar un individuo nuevo, ¿no?
Sí.
Entonces, yo quise, cuando la vida se pone en juego, quise celebrar la vida. Entonces empieza con una historia de la vida y de alguna manera empieza con una historia de la vida y del amor como energía motriz de la vida, ¿no?
Hablando de contacto con otras personas, tienes una canción, you have a song on the album, se llama Tocarte. That seems to be, se parece que es un deseo después de tanto tiempo que no estar con tocar otra persona, un abrazo, handshake, algo así. Talk to us a little bit about that song and your guest artist on that song.
Yeah, that's a very important song in the record too. I wrote that one in this room, in this very room, right in this right where I'm sitting. Yeah, I mean we worked with in the heat of the pandemic, in the most difficult time. We got together with Zetangana, the Spanish musician, my son Pablo, who is now touring with Zetangana, and Victor Martinez. He's the musical director of Zetangana's project. He's also touring with Zetangana right now. The four of us got together in this room. I think it was one of the first outside the family contacts we had. It was in June 2020. It was a long time ago. It was right when the first little opening that there was in Spain, where we started seeing other people. And we got together here, and Victor had just come from, he met his girlfriend for the first time in 3 months, and he couldn't touch her. They met in a train station because they had relatives that were in danger, that couldn't be infected because they were risk population. So they after seeing each other through the screens for 3 months, they got together and they stayed half a meter away from the other in a train station. And it was such a traumatic experience. He came to the meeting at the studio really affected, and he said, we could not even touch each other. We stayed so close and we couldn't touch each other. And I wanted so much to touch her, to hug her. And I told them, we should write about that. I mean, we all have that feeling. Everybody's going to understand the value of contact, the value of touching, the importance of the skin. And not only in every aspect of the affective life of the humans, in the relationship between brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, fathers, neighbors, in couples, in every way that people touch each other. So we really made a tribute to contact. Of course, I was writing with 3 young men younger than me, and everything came into sensual contact, which is I was very happy to describe in such a, because that was also a kind of contact that everybody was lacking. We were separated from our loved ones. We turned desire and contact into a non-present. I don't know how to say that in no presencial with the other people and the others at the other side of the screen. So I don't think we would have written that song in a normal situation when you don't realize the importance of touching, and because the chorus just says that word, to touch you, 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 it's just it's the only thing that you have in your mind at that moment, the only thing that you really crave.
And speaking of your writing process, I'm wondering if this experience that we all went through, did it change you, or how did it impact your writing process? Was it different? Because the poetry of your music on this record seems it's always there, right? But it seems to be more profound, más presente. I don't know how to describe it, but it seems to be a little different in how you wrote the lyrics. ¿Me entiendes? So did you feel something a little different this time?
I did, definitely. I thought it was a negative thing what I felt. I had the impression I was through with writing songs because I couldn't finish them. I I the process would be the same every time. I would sit down here in this room. This is the room where I write. I would sit here, get into composition with. It was very hard because I had to focus, but I would find an idea. I would fall in love with that idea and be very enthusiastic about it, and then I would go home and have, nobody to show it to, just my really close family, and I show them to my wife and to my children, but I wasn't getting together with other friends to play it. So I would come back 2 days later to the studio here, and I wouldn't be able to reconnect with the first feeling because the song didn't get to consolidate. It was the songs were like I would build them in my head and they would dismantle because I didn't have contact with other people. What I realized when I started meeting friends is when I used to when I pick the guitar and I show them an unfinished song, I would kind of finish it at the same time that I played to them because I'm very used to communicating with the song. So I would detect the problems in the process of telling the song, but I wasn't able to tell the song to other people because I had to have somebody right in front of me. I don't know why. So I had like 20 songs that I used to, every one of them at some point I fell in love with it and I thought it was no better nor worse than the other songs that I have in other records. But I thought they were good enough to be in a record. But then when the moment came, I didn't have any of them finished. So until I started getting back together in a room with other musicians and picking up that material and refilling it and reconnecting to them, just then I realized that I actually didn't have a problem with the writing. I had a problem with the self-esteem as a writer. It's a difference.
Wow.
The songs were good, but I wasn't good judging them at the moment. I was a little bit, I was languishing. Maybe I was a little depressed. Maybe I was alone. Maybe I don't know. But I really lost faith. Actually, Tinta y Tiempo, the song, it's a very explicit chronic of that frustration, ¿no? Es decir, lo que dejo por escrito no está tallado en granito, yo apenas suelto en el tiempo presentimientos. It's like a lullaby for a writer. I was telling me, don't worry, you just need ink and time. It will come. Pero the second verse says, pero me cuesta esperar. Y cuando toca de cantar lentamente lo que siento, yo me impaciento. But it's very hard for me to wait. And when the time comes to put down the things that I'm feeling, I get impatient. Luego lo vuelvo a intentar. Tinta y tiempo. But then I try again. And that's exactly the process. No, I was telling myself, don't worry. You're just being impatient.
Yeah.
Just trust your ink, your writing, and wait. Take your time. And then the chorus says, nunca sé ni por qué ni cuándo. Esa voz yo no la comando. I never know when and why, nor why. Because I don't command that voice. I realized up to what point I wasn't actually in control of writing. I mean, it was something that there were other factors involved, and chance was a big one of them. Like Leonard Cohen used to say, he said, if I knew where good songs where songs come from, or good songs come from, I would go there more often. He said, and he also said, I think that I read that those I read a lot of Leonard Cohen because he has he's so humble about the writing process. He says, nothing works for writing. I tried it all. I tried to write with alterated state of mind, sober, drunk, sleeping well, without sleeping the night before, sad, happy, and nothing works. It's just something. You have to assume that you don't control the process and just be there waiting, and have faith. What I lost was the faith, but as soon as I recovered it, everything started. I've been writing for 2 years, and the whole process just came together in 2 weeks. Actually, before those 2 weeks before finishing the process, I was still thinking that I didn't have a record.
Wow.
And suddenly getting together in a room with people and playing, and I said, I should have believed in the first feeling I had with every one of these 10 songs, because at the first moment I thought I have a song, and then I lost that faith. I think we all lost a little bit of hope. We were a little languishing, a little sad.
Sí. I think it's a very common experience for a lot of people. I mean, nobody knew. Nadie sabía que iba a pasar. Y también, like, I think a lot of people also like went within. Like, for myself, it's like, okay, I need to pay more attention to my family. I love my job because I love talking to you guys, right? But I need to spend more time looking around. And speaking of family, talk a little bit about, we have about 5 minutes left, but talk a little bit about, like, your son produced the track, and then you have some other family members on the record too, correct?
Yeah.
So
I have my 3 children in the record. I have Pablo. We produced and wrote with Zetangana, and Victor wrote Tocarte, and he produced it with Zetangana too. And then I had my other younger children, Luca and Lea, together with Pablo in the closing song of the record, which is it's a Duerme Vela. It's a song that I wrote in the memory of my mother. That's a very emotional song for me, because it's the first part of the song, I actually had it from before, but my mother was still alive when I wrote it, and I didn't feel like I had the right to sing it at the moment. Don't ask me why, because I really don't know why I didn't want to put it in it also wasn't finished until I grabbed it again, and I finished it, and I called my 3 children to sing with me. My mother, she was called Lucero, which is the name of the star of the planet of Venus, the first and the last star in the sky when the day ends and when the day starts. And so that's Duerme Vela, is that kind of feeling that you're half asleep and half awake at the end of the day and the beginning of the day. It's like a transition feeling that I associate a lot with the memory of that a child holds from his mother's embrace.
It's a beautiful record. It's another powerful addition to your wonderful story, man. And I can't wait for people to hear it. The album is called Tinta de Tiempo. It will be released on April 22nd. Jorge Drexler, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, man. There's never enough time to finish everything, but we'll just consider this an ongoing conversation that we'll always have.
It's always great to talk to you, Felix, also. Thank you so much. I hope to see you in person.
Muy pronto, aquí en Washington. Okay, also before we sign off, I want to remind everyone that's watching that while this version of the LAMC is virtual here in April, the LAMC will be live again in New York from July 6th to 9th. So go to LatinAlternative.com for more information and to register. Again, Thank you for joining us. I'm Felix Contreras from NPR Music's alt.Latino podcast. Gracias y nos vemos pronto. Gracias. Chao.
Bye. Ciao.